I never imagined humiliation would come from my own dining table. The room was full of laughter until silence shattered it. My daughter-in-law reached across the table, grabbed my wrist, and smirked. She held up my watch like it was trash and said, "Relax, it's just a fake." Everyone laughed, except me. But what she didn't know was, this watch was about to change everything. Family dinners are supposed to be warm. A place where respect lives, where generations meet with love. That night, I wore my late husband's watch, the last thing he gave me before cancer took him away. It wasn't gold to me. It was memory. And memory, once mocked, demands justice. Respect is not something that should ever be negotiated, earned through silence, or requested with folded hands. It is the invisible line that defines how we treat one another, especially within families where love is assumed but not always practiced. Many people mistake respect for fear, politeness, or obedience, but true respect is none of those. It is a conscious choice to honor another person's dignity, regardless of age, status, wealth, or personal differences. When respect disappears, even the strongest relationships begin to rot from the inside. In family settings, disrespect is often disguised as humor. A sarcastic comment here, a mocking laugh there. "I was just joking" becomes a shield people hide behind. But jokes that humiliate are not jokes at all. They are power plays. They are attempts to elevate oneself by shrinking someone else. And when such behavior is tolerated, it silently teaches everyone at the table that cruelty is acceptable as long as it weighs a smile. This is how boundaries erode, one laugh at a time. Disrespect hurts most when it comes from those who are closest. Strangers can insult us and walk away, but family words linger. They echo in quiet moments, replay at night, and settle deep in the heart. A dismissive tone from a daughter-in-law, a mocking glance from a son, or silence from a spouse during moments of humiliation can wound more deeply than open hostility. It sends a painful message. Your feelings are less important than their comfort. Over time, this kind of emotional neglect teaches people to doubt their own worth. Many elders, especially parents, accept disrespect in the name of peace. They tell themselves that staying quiet is maturity, that enduring humiliation is sacrifice, that family harmony is more important than self-respect. But what they often don't realize is that silence can be misunderstood as permission. When disrespect goes unchallenged, it grows bolder. What begins as a small insult slowly turns into public humiliation, control, and emotional dominance. The longer it continues, the harder it becomes to stop. Respect is not tied to money, education, or social standing, yet people often behave as if it is. Those who believe status gives them the right to belittle others reveal their own insecurity. Truly confident people do not need to mock, embarrass, or assert superiority. They understand that respect costs nothing but gives everything: trust, safety, and emotional connection. When someone chooses disrespect, it is not because they are strong, but because they fear being ordinary. It is also important to understand that demanding respect does not require aggression. You don't need to shout, insult back, or create scenes to reclaim dignity. Sometimes, the most powerful response is calm clarity, knowing your worth even when others refuse to acknowledge it. Respect begins internally. When a person truly values themselves, they stop accepting behavior that diminishes them. This internal shift often unsettles those who benefited from the silence. Disrespect within families often creates generational damage. Children watch how elders are treated and learn what is acceptable. If they see mockery go unaddressed, they internalize it as normal behavior. They may grow up repeating the same patterns, either becoming disrespectful themselves or accepting mistreatment from others. In this way, one unchecked moment can echo for decades, shaping attitudes, relationships, and emotional health. What makes disrespect especially dangerous is how ordinary it can appear. It doesn't always arrive as shouting or cruelty. Sometimes it's an eye roll, a sarcastic remark, a dismissive laugh, or ignoring someone's pain. These small acts accumulate. Over time, they chip away at confidence, self-worth, and emotional safety. The victim may begin to question themselves, wondering if they are too sensitive or imagining things. This self-doubt is often the most damaging consequence of all. Ultimately, Respect is not optional because without it, love becomes conditional and relationships become transactional. When respect exists, even disagreements can be handled with grace. Without it, even kindness feels temporary and unsafe. Respect is a foundation that allows families to survive conflict, differences, and change. Once it is lost, everything else, love, loyalty, unity, stands on unstable ground. Choosing respect means choosing humanity over ego. It means recognizing that every person carries stories, sacrifices, and pain that may not be visible. When someone mocks or humiliates another, they are not just insulting an object, a choice, or a moment. They are dismissing a lifetime of experience. And that is why respect can never be optional. Because once dignity is treated as disposable, nothing meaningful remains intact. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, fear, or surrender. But in reality, silence can be one of the most deliberate and powerful choices a person can make. Not every battle is meant to be fought in the moment, and not every insult deserves an immediate response. When emotions are high and egos are on display, reacting impulsively often hands control to the very people who seek to provoke. Silence, when chosen intentionally, becomes a form of restraint, intelligence, and quiet authority. In moments of public humiliation or disrespect, the pressure to respond instantly can feel overwhelming. The heart races, words crowd the mind, and the desire to defend oneself burns fiercely. But speaking in anger often leads to regret. Words spoken in heat cannot be retrieved, and they can escalate situations beyond repair. Silence, on the other hand, creates space to breathe, to observe, and to understand the true nature of what is unfolding. It allows a person to step back while others reveal themselves. Strategic silence is not passive, it is observant. When someone remains quiet, they gain the advantage of seeing clearly. They notice who laughs, who stays silent, who looks away, and who feels uncomfortable. These details matter. They reveal alliances, character, and hidden intentions. In that quiet moment, truth surfaces that noise would have drowned out. Silence becomes a lens through which reality sharpens. There is also dignity in choosing not to explain oneself to those who have already decided to misunderstand. Many people speak not to understand but to dominate. Engaging with them only feeds their need for control. Silence denies them that power. It refuses to validate cruelty or ignorance. In this way, silence becomes a boundary, an unspoken statement that says, "I will not participate in this." Patience is another strength embedded within silence. True patience is not waiting without action. It is waiting with purpose. It is knowing that timing matters. A response given too early may fall on deaf ears, while a response delivered at the right moment can reshape an entire narrative. Silence allows events to unfold, evidence to gather, and clarity to form. It transforms reaction into strategy. Many people fear silence because they equate it with defeat. Society often praises those who speak loudly, argue fiercely, and dominate conversations. But history and experience show that the most impactful individuals are often those who speak less and observe more. Silence cultivates self-control, and self-control is a rare form of power. It prevents others from manipulating emotions and keeps one grounded in intention rather than impulse. Silence also protects the self. When a person is hurt, angry, or shocked, immediate confrontation can deepen emotional wounds. By remaining quiet, they give themselves time to process feelings without external interference. This internal processing is essential for healing and clarity. It prevents the person from internalizing blame or saying things that compromise their values. Silence, in this sense, is an act of self-respect. In relationships, especially family dynamics, silence can shift power in unexpected ways. When someone expects a reaction and does not receive one, they are often unsettled. The absence of response forces them to sit with their own behavior. It removes a distraction of conflict and places a mirror in front of them. While not everyone will reflect a change, the silence itself alters the dynamic. It disrupts patterns that rely on emotional responses. However, silence must be purposeful to be effective. Suppressed silence, where emotions are buried and resentment grows, is damaging. Strategic silence is different. It is temporary and intentional, followed by thoughtful action. It is the pause before the plan, not the avoidance of truth. The difference lies in awareness. When silence is chosen consciously, it empowers rather than diminishes. Silence also creates anticipation. When someone who is usually quiet finally speaks, their words carry weight. People listen more closely. The message lands deeper because it is not diluted by constant noise. In this way, silence amplifies future action. It sets the stage for a response that is calm, firm, and undeniable. Ultimately, silence is not about letting things slide forever. It is about choosing the right moment to act, the right words to use, and the right path to take. It is the understanding that strength does not always announce itself. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it watches. And sometimes, when the time is right, it speaks with a force that no argument ever could. Silence, when used wisely, becomes a strategy that preserves dignity, protects emotional well-being, and shifts power without confrontation. It teaches that not every injustice needs immediate noise. Some require patience, clarity, and timing. In a world that often mistakes loudness for strength, silence stands quietly, proving that true power does not rush. People are quick to judge because judgment feels easier than understanding. The human mind naturally looks for shortcuts, and assumptions provide them. When someone sees an object, a lifestyle, a habit, or a choice they do not recognize or value, they often assign meaning without context. They compare it to their own standards and conclude they know the full story. This tendency to judge what we do not understand is not only unfair, but deeply damaging because it ignores the invisible layers that give things their true significance. Every object, person, or decision carries a history that is not immediately visible. What may look ordinary, outdated, or insignificant to one person might represent years of struggle, sacrifice, and emotional attachment to another. When people judge without understanding, they reduce complex lives into shallow impressions. This reduction strips away humanity and replaces empathy with arrogance. It assumes superiority where none exists and closes the door to meaningful connection. Judgment often stems from insecurity. When someone feels unsure of their own worth, they may attempt to elevate themselves by devaluing others. Mocking what they don't understand becomes a way to assert dominance. It creates a false sense of control and importance. But this behavior exposes more about the judge than the judged. It reveals fear of being insignificant, fear of being wrong, fear of lacking depth. Instead of confronting these fears, judgment offers a temporary escape. The danger of judging without understanding lies in the harm it causes to relationships. Words spoken carelessly can leave lasting scars. A single dismissive comment can erase years of trust. When people feel misunderstood or belittled, they withdraw emotionally. They stop sharing, stop opening up, and stop feeling safe. Over time, this emotional distance can destroy bonds that once felt unbreakable. What could have been resolved through curiosity and compassion becomes permanent damage. Another consequence of shallow judgment is miswisdom. Often, the things we fail to understand are the very things that could teach us the most. Experiences different from our own expand perspective, challenge assumptions, and deepen emotional intelligence. When people judge instead of asking, they deny themselves growth. They remain trapped in narrow thinking, repeating the same patterns and mistakes. Understanding requires humility, the willingness to admit that we do not know everything. Material judgment is especially common in modern society. People equate value with price, worth with brand, and success with appearance. This mindset encourages surface-level evaluation and discourages deeper inquiry. It teaches people to respect labels more than stories. But material worth is fleeting, while emotional and historical value is enduring. Judging based on appearance alone ignores the intangible elements that give life meaning. Judgment without understanding also silences voices. When people fear being mocked or misunderstood, they choose silence over expression. They hide parts of themselves to avoid criticism. This self-censorship slowly erodes identity and confidence. People begin to question their own experiences, memories, and feelings, wondering if they are valid. Over time, this internalized doubt can be more harmful than external judgment. Understanding, on the other hand, requires patience and effort. It asks us to listen without interrupting, observe without assuming, and ask without accusing. It demands emotional maturity, the ability to hold complexity without rushing to conclusions. When people choose understanding over judgment, they create space for truth. They allow stories to unfold fully, revealing depth that first impressions could never capture. It is important to recognize that not everything valuable announces itself loudly. Some things carry their worth quietly. Memories, legacies, personal victories, and emotional bonds often exist beneath the surface. When people rush to judge, they overlook these silent treasures. They mistake humility for insignificance and simplicity for lack. This misinterpretation leads to regret when the truth eventually emerges. Ultimately, judging what we do not understand is a failure of empathy. It prioritizes ego over connection and assumptions over truth. True wisdom lies in restraint, in pausing before speaking, in questioning our first impressions, and in acknowledging that every story is bigger than what we can see. When we replace judgment with curiosity, we not only protect others from harm, but we enrich our own understanding of the world. Understanding transforms relationships, deepens compassion, and reveals value where none seem to exist. Judgment closes doors, understanding opens them. And in a world filled with unseen stories, choosing understanding over judgment is not just kindness, it is intelligence. In the end, the truth always speaks louder than assumptions. What we fail to understand today often becomes our greatest lesson tomorrow. Value isn't defined by appearance, but by the stories it carries.